And so I'd go up and take them, and they'd be like, no, mommy slides. And I'm like, swings. And we'd go up, and they'd swing, and I would just start a conversation with that mom. And we would just talk, and I would start a conversation, and I'd ask her, do you come here often? What do you do? And we would talk, and if something came up where I could help her, I would ask, I'd ask her questions and help her. Now, I just want to stop here for a moment, because oftentimes people think, oh, that's the secret. Brooke finds leaders at the park, Sandi finds leaders at the park. Or they'll hear Heidi Bartolotta talk, and she'll talk about how she has a phenomenal executive director, Dr. B.J. Ryan, and they'll be like, oh, Heidi's successful because she enrolls doctors. I'm going to go to the hospital and enroll doctors. But, let's think about this for a moment here. You need to go where your circle of influence is. So I go to the park because I have little kids. But let's think of Dave Crescenzo. Okay, he works with businessmen. His group is mostly men. He's a small business owner. His group is mostly men. So I go to the park. You're going to see a picture of, just a typical park. So I go to the park. That's where I'm comfortable. That's where I fit in. That's where I meet people. So imagine if Dave Crescenzo, he thinks, that's the secret. I'm going to go to the park. And though it's a funny slide, so often I hear people doing things like this and thinking, that's the secret, that's the secret. There is no secret in this business. It's about being intentional and going out where your circle of influence is, going where people are, and asking those questions. So I want to reiterate what Brooke said about don't pounce. I always say if there's no need, there's no lead, and it's no problem. Walk away. My son's teacher this year, I have talked to her numerous times, and every time I talk to her, there's never been a way that I've seen that Melaleuca can help her. Nothing's ever come up in conversations. So it's almost the end of the school year, and I'm just keep building that relationship. And it might take next year, having another child in her class, just keep building that relationship. Sometimes, though, it's very quick that a need comes up, and I can talk to them about Melaleuca. So I just want to tell you some stories of some of the latest people that I have helped with Melaleuca. So right at the end of April, I was having this crazy, crazy day. And I had to go get my daughter's prom dress altered. And we go to this little place to get it altered, and there's never anybody there. So I love it because I can just rush in and out. And I was real behind, and I ran in, and there's all these people in there. And I was like, oh, I don't have time for this. And then I thought, okay, let's talk to people. So I checked around and kind of picked who I wanted to talk to, and I sat next to this lady, and we just started to talk, and she saw the prom dress, and we started talking about our kids, and found out our kids went to the same school, and found out she had 5 kids. Asked her how many kids she had, and I said I had 6, and we started talking, and I said, so do you work outside of the home? And she said, yeah, with 5 kids, no, I'm home. And I said, yeah, me too. And she said, don't you find it expensive, though? And I said, well, actually, I work from my home, and you know what? And she came back and said to me, you're kidding, I'd love to be able to work from home. And I said, well, you're not going to believe this, but the company I work for is looking for people here in Bakersfield. And she's like, they are? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, you're kidding. And I said, no. And she's like, can you really make some money with it? And I'm like, yeah. And so I said, give me your name and number. I'll give you a call, and we'll talk. So I called her right at the end of April. And as of yesterday, she already has 10 enrollments. She has a business builder with 3 enrollments, has huge goals, and she is so excited how Melaleuca is going to help her family. I also just went to JCPenney's to return some things right before I came here, and I walked, and there was 2 lineups, and I kind of looked at both lineups. I thought if I'm out and about, I'm going to, see if I can meet people, and looked at both lineups, and I kind of picked who I wanted to talk to. Really, really sharp-dressed woman, and got up there, and there were some issues, so she had to call the manager to help her deal with it. So I'm sitting there talking with her, and I just said, how long have you worked at JCPenney's? And she's like, 1.5 years. And I said, is it your dream job? And she's like, no, I went to school to be a teacher, but I couldn't find a job. And I said, oh, are you still looking for a teaching job? And she said, I'm looking for anything that will give me some money to support my family, because this, I can't get enough hours. And I said, you're kidding. I work for a company that's looking for people here in Bakersfield. And she's like, really? I'm like, yeah, I work from home. It's something you can do from home, around your family, or alongside of what you're doing now. She's like, you're kidding. And I said, give me your name and number, I'll give you a call. So I have an appointment with her on Monday when I get back. I'm going to tell you another story. I was at the hair salon getting my hair done, and these two bitty ladies, they were so sweet, were sitting next to me talking very loudly, and they just were talking back and forth, and we were all sitting there for quite a while, and I couldn't help but overhear that the one lady's son and daughter-in-law had just both lost their jobs with corporate America. And as parents of 5 children, she didn't know what they were going to do, and just kept talking, and please pray for us, and going back and forth. And I leaned over and I said to her, I can't help but overhear what you're talking about, and I work for a company that's looking for people here in Bakersfield, and maybe I could help them, give them some info. And she said, oh, they don't live in Bakersfield. And I'm like, oh, where do they live? And she said, Arizona. And I'm like, you're kidding. They're looking for people there too. And she's a director too in my business now. So I also am out at a lot of volleyball games. A lot of the people in my group that I work with are volleyball moms. So my daughter started on a team, and there was a lot of new parents on this team. And there's one parent in particular that we were rivals. Our daughters played opposite teams, same positions. And anyway, my oldest daughter was on a team with her daughter. And my oldest daughter came home and said, Mom, you really need to talk to Shelly. I think Melaleuca could really help them. And I thought, she's a rival. Like, really? But anyway, at the next volleyball game, I was sitting with some of these new parents around a fire pit at a Las Vegas hotel, and we all just started talking, and I started asking questions, thinking, how can I help? And one was a vice principal. I asked, what job do you do? That's a great, to try to find out. So one was a vice principal, and one was a volleyball coach, and they all started talking. They asked me what I did. And I said, I'm a mom, full-time mom. And they're like, well, how do you afford to raise your 6 kids? And I said, well, I also work from home. And that's the reason we moved to Bakersfield. They were really looking for people in Bakersfield, so that's why we moved there. And a little bit later, after we kind of finished that conversation, this mom came up and said, you said they were looking for people in Bakersfield. Like, could I do it? Could you tell me more info? And I'm like, yeah, if you're interested. And she's like, yeah, tell me about it. And I'm like, well, let's watch volleyball. I didn't want to pounce on her. Meanwhile, I'm like, but I just said, let's watch volleyball. I'll give you a call next week. Give me your name and number, and I'll call you, take you out for coffee, and tell you about it. Well, 7 months later, Shelly Wiedemeyer got to senior director. She's here as a senior director 4, and she will be an executive director very soon. And we are great friends, no longer rivals, but great friends. Now, another thing I do, I have 6 children, so I figure I might as well take advantage of having a large family. I pay my children for those leads. And so my kids know, they know a lot of people, and they're in a lot of kids' houses, and they know a lot of people that I might not know. So my kids have been an incredible source of referrals. So they know if they refer somebody, and they know our family's in the business of helping people. So they will come home and be like, Mom, you need to call Lane's mom. She has really bad eczema, and I told her you'd be calling her because you work for a company that could help her. And if she enrolls, I'll take my money. And if they get to director, we up the pay. So my kids will come home and be like, Mom, I was at their house, and the dad just got a pay cut, and over dinner they were talking about it, and Mom, I told him you'd call because you could really help them. You work for a company that could help them. So because my daughter, Amy, referred Shelly Wiedemeyer, who's a senior 4, that's taken, she gets a little bit of our check every month. So now all my other kids want to refer me senior directors. So if you have kids, and Mark and Myrna, I don't know if it'd work with your dogs, but you could see. Every week I look at my calendar and where I will be, and I plan to work my hours around my family. That's how I leverage my time. With 6 kids, I am a full-time mom and a busy mom, but I try to work I look at where we're gonna be, a volleyball game, a soccer game, an open house at the school. I look for places where I can be with my family, the park, and I'm intentional about finding people. I talk intentionally to a lot of people. A lot of them, nothing comes up where I can help them, and we part ways. But as I ask questions and listen for ways that I can help them, I have found so many of my customers and business-built people who have been helped by the great products or the great business that Melaleuca has to offer. The more people you talk to, the more appointments you're gonna set, and the more appointments you set, the more people you're gonna enroll, and the more people you enroll, the more people you can help build this business. So if you want more results, talk to more people. If you want a bigger paycheck, talk to more people, do more activity. You know, it's very easy to think about Melaleuca a lot. And I used to do that. I used to think about Melaleuca all the time, like, who will I get, who will I get? How should I approach them? Open up my book of approaches. Which approach should I use? Oh, how should I do this? Oh my goodness, okay, who should I get? Should I talk to that person? Should I not? And at the end of the week, I would think, I have worked Melaleuca a ton. But in reality, I had thought about Melaleuca a lot. But I hadn't done the work, and nobody has gotten to senior director or executive director or corporate director by thinking about this business. So don't just think about building your business, build it. Don't just think about being a great leader, do the things that great leaders do. Don't just think about talking to people, be intentional, go where people are. Ask questions, listen. Don't just think, who can I get? Stay focused on the mission statement. 3.5 years ago, I came to this convention, and I sat there and thought, one day I'm going to win that Century Club Award. One day I'm going to win some of those awards. I came to the awards banquet, and I was like, one day I'm going to win for having a bunch of directors, and one day I'm going to win President's Club. And it was like a light